Welcome to the Hollywood Scholar. I'm Jed Morgan, and we have a little bit of information on what general public and some of the critics saw of the recent Power of the Doctor special, which ended the divisive and, in my opinion, horrendous era of Doctor Who with Jodie Whittaker and Chris Chibnall. We have a lot of interesting things to go over, so let's jump right into it. And as of the recording of this video, Rotten Tomatoes is still not open for review from fans or critics. I assume the critics are just choosing not to. I assume they still have the ability to do so, but from the audience perspective, still not available. Kind of interesting how that's still not an option. But we have this article here from the BBC itself, which has a few critic responses to The Power of the Doctor. And it starts off here with this one from The Telegraph, who gave it a 4-star review. 4 stars is insane. It's insane. The Power of the Doctor was perhaps the best episode of Chris Chibnall's patchy 5-year stint as Supremo. Alright, at least he's mentioning that it's patchy. I'll give him that. Got its sense of fun back. You need to get your head checked, mate. That episode was awfully written and not fun at all. The program past was honored. No, they brought back classic Doctors just to positively affirm Jodie Whittaker. That's not honoring the past. That's degrading the past to prop up the future, or the current one at least, because that regime is gone now. Its future was launched. Only the present part of the equation suffered. Hey, I'm okay with parts of this. The frantic story threw in so many playful bells and fan-pleasing whistles, it became nonsensical, as if Chibnall painted himself into a plotting corner and didn't know how to escape. I agree with that section entirely. Yeah, that's definitely what happened. It's kind of weird that the BBC would publish that on their own site. It's kind of an interesting take. And from The Guardian, the pillar of journalism that is The Guardian. I reviewed them a lot, and they have some insane things. So let's see what they have to say about this. 4 stars. Again, what the guy said before was highly critical. Not worthy of a 4-star rating. I wonder if this Guardian piece will have as much cooperation between the actual review and the star rating. But the Guardian writer says, this episode is bombastic and stuffed with Easter eggs and nods to the past that I doubt I even caught half of them, but it rolls through its meaty story with Whittaker's trademark energy and just right lightness of touch. Yeah, it's not a meaty story. It's nonsensical, so you struggle to put all the pieces together, so you think it's meaty. And 90 minutes was way too long. Considering this is a super long episode, good that you mentioned that, it trouts along at a decent speed and pace rarely dips. I would strongly argue against that being decent pace, but yes, it does move at a quick pace. That is true, but that's not necessarily a good thing. For the first 40 minutes, it was just this loud piece of music that was just blaring in your ear, being like high, fast pace and things were happening, trying to go by so fast that you couldn't actually think about what was going on. But when you thought about it, it was insane. So yes, it was at a fast pace, but not a decent pace. Those are different terms, at least for me. Fans, old and new, rarely find plenty to delight them. Then added, it's a great send-off to Whittaker, focused on full of feeling, which makes this an apt welcome for Gatwa too. Well, Gatwa's not in it, funnily enough, but it's not focused on feeling. It's focused on the Master's insane plan, and Whittaker just being like, oh, I love you as, but not like that, and bye now. I know this whole episode was spent criticizing the Doctor for leaving his other companions, Ace and Tegan, behind at a whim, but I'm gonna do the same thing because I'm regenerating. I'm doing that on my own. Bye, have a nice life, and we're never gonna see you again. Yeah, not super well written. So that's what the Guardian had to say. And so that does make sense with the 4 stars. At least it was a cooperation between the star rating and the actual review. But it's still a little bit inaccurate, at least from my perspective. However, from the Times was lukewarm. The Times was lukewarm, awarding it 3 stars and suggesting the show was too busy to be properly digested by viewers. Totally agree with that. The episode reminded us that actually you need 1 or 2 dull bits for the drama to be dramatic. Yes, absolutely. It's inflection of story. It needs to go up and down. There needs to be highs and lows. The 3-act structure is a structure for a reason. The hero's journey is a thing for a reason. It creates those moments, those rolling arcs of highs and lows. The highs don't mean anything if there's not lows to contrast it to. And the lows prop up the highs so very well. So yes, absolutely right. Moments where what's happening, however intergalactic, however epoch-hopping, however sassy, has time to register. Instead, it was an action pageant in which almost anything could happen at any turn. Yeah, and that was kind of a problem because anything did happen and it was all nonsense. You gotta put it together. As a result, a little of it felt as if it mattered all that much, even with an incarnation ending, but at least the ideas keep coming. And I don't agree with that. That's just saying, ooh, something new, so there's some quality in that. No, the new things still have to quality in and of itself. So you looked at your phone, in fact, you blinked, you probably missed one of the upteenth plot twists, cameos, flashback, callbacks. Yeah. Well, we're going to tear through most of these, the rest of these. The Independent gave it a note of skepticism, suggesting Whittaker deserved more for this end of an era. She did not deserve shit. She deserved to burn painfully, not the big dramatic send-off that she got. I will wholly disagree. She doesn't deserve anything. And it looks like the Radio Times gave it a 4-star. Of course they did. It excites, it surprises, it confounds, it confuses. Yeah, because it doesn't actually make sense. It brings an erratic 4-year chapter of this constantly evolving saga to a satisfying close. What was satisfying about that? Everyone just cares that David Tennant showed up. That's the only thing that people cared about. And Metro added the callbacks and reunions warmed the heart without dominating the story. Some of those scenes were good. I do have to admit that. Some of them were all right. Like the Sylvester McCoy Ace conversation that they had. That was all right. But that's because the actors were of quality. And they're bringing their stuff from Classic Who. The writing didn't actually support that. So, yes, warmed the heart in some instances. But it didn't dominate the story because this story was nonsense. The villains were truly diabolical and looked terrific. Still don't know why the Daleks were there. They never gave a motivation for them to be involved in the story. But whatever. So those are a lot of interesting critic reviews on this from some of the big news sites out there. But there isn't a wholly across the board general positivity towards it, at least their version of it, because yeah, some of those things were negative, but that's still very, very positive for them. Screen Rant, the shill rant as we call it, is not happy that the Thasmian situation didn't happen. Apparently a lot of people on Twitter aren't very happy that it didn't occur. In Legend of the Sea Devils, the last special, Yaz did tell Dan that she was in love with the Doctor, so why didn't something develop? Maybe because it was always queer baiting. That's all it ever was, and they never actually intended to do something with it. It's always what these studios do. They don't actually care. They're weaponizing the alphabet community as much as diversity in every other aspect. They don't actually care. So, yeah, shill rant. Yeah, you have a right to be upset because they baited the hell out of you, but they were never going to do it, so don't be surprised. And lastly, there's a piece of interesting news. Apparently, the BBC was dishonest over the filming of the regeneration scene. Now, it was on green screen, and then they did this like wide shot, which was probably drone footage, and it's the drone footage that was the problem. Apparently, it is a private estate where this was filmed, and they had to get permission from the owners of the land to film it, but they were highly dishonest in telling them what was actually going to happen there. The people who own the land had no idea what the shot was going to be. And when they found out what it was going to be, they were not okay with it. They said they wouldn't have actually approved it if it turned out like this as it did. They were worried about safety concerns about people trying to get to that point in the rock and reenact the regeneration scene. Interesting thing, I don't think anyone cares enough about Jodie Whittaker to try to do that, but the BBC was dishonest, and the exact quote is being duplicitous and dishonest over the filming. And that's kind of an interesting accusation to be labeled against the BBC. And of course, this article, which is the only really place that's covering it, has this heavily bias towards the BBC because, I mean, it's the BBC that's reporting it, but it's an interesting situation to see that they are being accused of being dishonest. I'd love to see more information of this come out. I'd love to see how this develops, if there was actually some legal repercussions that can result from this, because being dishonest in a contract is a big deal. But the BBC is a big government organization that may be able to withstand any civilian litigations that are brought against them. But overall, those are some of the initial reactions for Power of the Doctor. A lot of shill stuff, a lot of fun stuff, just sitting back and laughing. But I just can't wait to see when an explanation for the locked Rotten Tomatoes score comes out. But until then, this is where we're at. Critics creaming themselves over it, and a few people upset about Thasmin. But you're never going to please everyone, especially the social justice warriors. It's never going to be enough. You're never going to satisfy them. And news and mainstream medias will always support whoever pays them the most or whatever is most advantageous for them to support. And they're never going to actually be honest. So none of what we went over today is surprising in the least. But anyway, that's all I have for today. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Anon. If you like what I do here and want to see good, compelling stories that Hollywood will no longer give you, check out my book series, Odyssey of a Phoenix, a mythological epic about philosophy, morality, and modern-day mental illness issues. Books 1, Down in Flames, and Book 2, Apocalypse Then, currently on sale. Book 3, Kill the Dark, coming soon.